gun club that I belong to, they close it to the public certain days because the RCMP come in, they have to, and conservation, you gotta do your annual
Qualifying.
qualifying.
Is anybody out there?
Yeah, there's somebody said that.
Oh, well, if they're here for the 1 o'clock, invite them in.
You ready for 1 o'clock?
I am.
Come on.
Come on down.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Hi.
That's good. That's good. Just have a seat. We're just gonna get started again. You can sit in the gallery if you like. I don't know if anybody else is coming in for the public hearing or for the bylaws. So we were a little late leaving for lunch, so we've run over our lunch hour a little bit here. So Heather, is everything good to go? Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting back to order, and I believe Councillor Horgus will be coming in a minute here, so I'm going to ask that our CAO talk about the bylaw. We'll go through the bylaw and then we'll open it up for the public hearing. What do you want to do now first, Deepak?
Yes, we'll talk about the bylaw first.
Okay.
And then open up for questions and comments.
Okay.
Should we are we ready?
Yeah.
Should we get started?
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Today we're bringing forward the solid waste and recycling collection bylaw for second reading. And as part of that bylaw, we provided a decision paper outlining the report that highlights it. So as you know, this was originally established in 2018 for the municipality, and I'll go through in the PowerPoint to describe more detail to it. But basically, the bylaw was established originally as a special service levy, and that special service levy expires as of June 30th, 2023. In reviewing how to proceed forward with this bylaw, it was determined that the best method would be to move away from the special service levy because there are significant challenges when you're working with the special service levies as to adding new ratepayers into the program, as well as eliminating ratepayers. And there's also the challenge that we encountered, which was the province of Manitoba is looking at the entire recycling program across the province and looking at changes. So since the province has determined that they want to be coming forward with something in the next year to 2 years, we went forward with trying to continue the existing service provider for the next 2 years, basically, to allow us to continue with the servicing, and then we can determine what was the best way to move it forward. We've turned it into a bylaw which eliminates the need for a special service levy, and can be managed through our utility billing system, which we've had going on for all other utilities that we do charge with. And the intent is that the latter half of this year would be sent as a bill and then an annual bill afterwards. And then we were able to get certain files and fees and charges. So the original bylaw established as part of the RFP process and established a set of fees which were allowed to increase at a specific amount every year based on the proposals that we received for it. And that took us into 2023 for the 6 months. And in negotiating the new fees, several things were taken. We are post-COVID. There were fuel increases and labor increases. So it went slightly higher for 2024 and 2025. So for 2023, we will be collecting for the 6 months for all those individuals that are already on the program. And that'll be for the remainder for the year, which will be at $52.92, which will be sent out as a bill in September, and will be due in 30 days, but after 90 days will be transferred out to the tax bill for the individuals. And so by the end of the year, they'll be put onto the tax bills. In addition to that, there was a request also by residents in the north part of the community who also wanted to be part of the program. And going through a special service levy would have required all these public notices and contacting each individual property owner as opposed to just expanding the area, which we were able to do in this bylaw, and so those individuals will be able to use it. The carts will be provided to them similar to the way that we provided to the previous owners. This is an example of the area that's been expanded to for one of the collection zones, and as you can see, the light blue is the expansion for some of those properties. There were some 52 additional properties that could take advantage of this program, and letters have been sent out explaining to the expanded area as well as to existing customers on the curbside collection as to the changes. There was information provided in the local paper as well as on our website. In addition to this, there was some additional things that were identified. So in conclusion, basically the curbside program, there's also a proposal to re-examine the review of the transfer stations and the utilization of them and be able to manage our services. The biggest thing that we have on this is, so I'll go through each item and I'll discuss them a little bit further afterwards as well. The rural municipality, this was part of our sustainability in reducing waste and extending the lifespan of our landfill. As you know, in the past, it was very difficult to separate recyclables from garbage, and with that program, now we're able to utilize it much more effectively, and as a matter of fact, have increased the amount of recyclables, not only benefiting the environment, but also reducing the costs to the RM, as well as it's given us an opportunity to extend the life of our cells in our landfill site. The curbside program has changes, which I would just mention, which come into effect July 1st, and we had the billing process will be added on as opposed to the special service levy put onto the direct billing into the taxes. Existing customers will pay $55.92 for the remainder of the year, and any new individuals that sign on. And for 2024 and 2025, they'll be paying a total of $125.84 for 52 weeks of collection. The operation of the transfer stations for the municipality is also being reviewed and to be consolidated in some areas to reduce expenses and reduce the risk that we have with life safety or health and safety in the work environment for the staff. We're obligated under provincial legislation to be able to provide a certain amount of safety requirements for a healthy work environment, and that would translate into hundreds of thousands of dollars in providing not only heated bathrooms, heated environment, but also to provide power into that location, and that has created an issue with some of those stations, and so what we're trying to do is look at reducing some of those costs. The Dunning transfer station is another one, and there's been some talk about this, and to set the record straight, the Dunning transfer station was there, and there was existing properties that were already there that were industrial, and they had the ability to expand. This could have happened at any point in time. It just coincidentally happened where the property owner of the property next to the Dunning transfer station came forward with a building permit, and they're going to be constructing a building there, which they have development rights to do, and in doing that, provincial legislation restricts us from burning that close to those properties, and so burning at the Dunning transfer station was put on hold. As well as the Clark transfer station was better suited for receiving burnable materials, and I need to bring to your attention, even as an example of our fire departments have always been concerned about burning at the Dunning transfer station, and we did have a significant fire this year at the Clark transfer station, which occurred even after we had finished burning. We hadn't been burning but there were still embers left in there, and due to the wind, it was able to jump the berm, and we had both fire halls respond to that event, and it was a fairly significant event. And if it was close to other buildings and so forth, it could have been a lot more dangerous. Okay. As mentioned, yard waste is been limited in the Dunning transfer station. But the Dunning transfer station is not being closed at this point. It's being examined, and then there are options being explored in order to make sure that that level of service is still being provided to the residents that are not utilizing the curbside collection program. So there's operational changes in the transportation stations, and that's basically the operating hours. And in the Dunning transfer station will be operating 2 days per week, while the Clark transfer station is operating 3 days per week. Also, we did some adjustments to the other transfer stations so that the hours of operation will be consistent across the entire RM. As identified with the bylaw, the main issues being the previous bylaw was expiring. In order to create a new bylaw that was justifiable, fair, and the main consideration for the administration was that the creation of the bylaw was also taking into effect the considerations of reducing or eliminating issues that the previous bylaw had created. An example of that is where someone had, because it was put on the taxes and it was put on a special levy, it was very difficult to eliminate. So if somebody had a house that burnt down, they were still required to continue to pay into the curbside collection program, because we weren't allowed to take anything off of the special service levy once it was established. And that's due to provincial legislation and how special service levies are created. Now, council has the authority to be able to make some of those types of changes. It is recommended that the bylaw be adopted, and the plan for rollout for the bylaw and the operational changes by council. In the appendix, we provided a list of all the changes that have been made as part of the that are different than the previous bylaw. So what I'll do is go into our PowerPoint and walk you through it quickly. So, as mentioned, 2018 council passed a bylaw for curbside collection in order to provide ratepayers with a municipality an affordable service. The introduction bylaw was introduced as a service and would be on an opt-in basis, and it continues to be that way. The service charged residents is a special service levy, which will be a tax bill on their taxes. The date of the service has been very successful, and over 2,000 residents now have taken advantage of this service. The purpose of the service was to enhance and promote recycling, reduction, reuse, recycling material, as mentioned, to be more environmentally friendly and sustainable, and to lengthen the lifespan of landfill. As a special service levy, it was established for 5 years, and the 5 years are now up. Bylaw 14 of 2018, which set out the procedures and guidelines for the collection of the service, will be expiring as of June 30th, so the new bylaw needed to be created. The new bylaw that's been created is Bylaw 3 of 2023, and it's for curbside collection and waste and recycling. The Bylaw 3 of 2018, coincidentally, was a special service levy bylaw, which outlined the fees and charges for the same principles. So that will be, of course, rescinded. A new contract was assigned with Anterra that will be in place until 2025, and that was where we went to Anterra as opposed to going out to a process again and trying to come with no guarantee more than 2 years or less that we would be very successful in getting any kind of competitive bids. Similar to previous bylaw, the cost of recycling pickups, the municipality receives the recycling rebate for these products. This is at about 80%, and so the residents pay for the waste pickup. It's at 80% right now, and the provincial change, when they're taking it over, will be 100% cost recovery, but it'll be based on 100% recovery as well. And so the risk goes to the province on taking that over when they do. The fees for the first 6 months for the collection of services will be $57.96, as per established for a special service levy. That will be on the tax bills coming forward this year. The remaining 6 months will come forward as $55.92, and that will come as a bill. for those residents. And so this is the transition year, and that's why they'll get sort of two different ways to pay for it. Council also asked us to expand Zone 5 based on a request from many residents in that area, and we looked at doing that as well. The remaining 2 years will be full year of service as opposed to that half year, one invoice sent out in 2024 in September for a total of $125.84, and that's a guaranteed price for the same for 2025, regardless of inflationary increases. So the new curbside collection map, as you can see, Zone 5 was expanded in this area so that it can, those individuals can take advantage of it. Letters were sent out to all those residents in the new area, allowing them to opt in if they chose to. We've asked them that they must identify by June 1st if they choose to opt in. We've looked at extending that a little further due to having some challenges of the post office not getting those letters out to them in enough time. Again, we will be able to collect in the new area beginning on July 1st, 2023, but it should be noted if they are able to sign in earlier, there is no administration charge. If they sign in afterwards, and that's the advantage of the new bylaw, people can sign in afterwards, and there would be a $25 administration fee. There was a communication plan that was rolled out as part of this, which was, we posted the draft bylaw on our website on May 5th. We also sent out letters to new customers on the 8th, as well as letters to existing customers on May 8th. We posted in the Selkirk Record on the May 8th, as well as May 18th. The first reading of the bylaw occurred May 23rd with a presentation, which is the same I'm doing today, to get an understanding of the bylaw. Second reading allowed individuals as of today to come forward for June 13th. And if council passes, then July 1st will be the effective date of the bylaw. And as I mentioned, the billing date is September 30th of each year. Payments are due within 30 days, but if invoices are overdue by 90 days, they will be transferred to the taxes as per our utility bylaw opportunities, or utility bylaw we have. The new bylaw changes. First is collection disposal eligibility of services, amended slightly to address the issues if the resident was removed from the property. If the residence was removed from the property, there would be no use for a curbside service in the carts. That was the example of maybe a house being removed or a house catching on fire. They would no longer be required to have to pay. And they would just return the carts out, or return to the municipality. It was amended to address the RM is now billing for the service. So if the person wants to sign up, they don't have to pay everything up front. They can now be charged on a monthly basis. And whatever the prorated fee, as well as there will be an administration fee of $25. All new developed properties created through the subdivisions, any new properties that are being created in the subdivision will be required to sign up on the curbside collection and will be addressed through the development agreement. So when the house is built, addresses the condominiums could now have, there was no opportunity for condominiums and other multi-families to be able to utilize this collection. Now there's an opportunity to opt into that service with an agreement based on if the RM is able to collect, and there's an opportunity to be able to utilize or access that property properly for the collection service. The frequency of garbage and recycling collection service, holidays such as Canada Days, and all that was removed to give more flexibility. The holidays and all those are still the same. It's just that it was removed out of there so that it didn't have to require a bylaw change, where there was a need to add in an extra day or remove an extra day. It wouldn't be an issue that can be passed by a resolution of council in the future with appropriate notice to all residents. So, additional services to solid waste and recycling in order to address future costs and manage these services. A multi-step approach aims to consolidate and reduce expenses for two of those transfer stations in the southern portion of the RM, where we are offering curbside collection. It should be noted that the RM of St. Clements is offering curbside collection on an opt-in basis, while in most places the curbside collection process is mandatory. The operating hours of the Dunning Road transfer station and the Clark transfer stations have been changed slightly as part of this. And I apologize, the slide didn't transfer over properly there. And so basically what you can see is Dunning is open Sunday and Monday, and while Clark will be open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to allow for still opportunities in the south for those individuals who want to utilize the transfer stations. The other transfer stations, there were different times of opening and closing, and they've been all changed to 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then there will be a different set of hours for the winter. And so why the additional service changes? Well, why is the municipality making changes? Well, the Rural Municipality St. Clements is doing this basically to reduce reuse and become environmentally friendly and sustainable, as well as lifting the compliance plan, as I mentioned. Why are we making changes to the transfer stations? As mentioned, with the proposed solid waste and recycling collection bylaw 3 coming into completion in a suitable time to review the entire services of the municipal transfer stations. The existing waste transfer stations have not maintained pace with industry employment standards when it comes to capital investment for electrical power, air conditioning, as well as washrooms and sanitary break rooms for staff. That is all going to cost significant dollars in order to be able to do that, because these locations do not always have access to all those services. Why changes of the customers are occurring within the year of the transfer station, and these changes occurred over the summer of this year, and just changes to operating hours and days, and times have been adjusted to deliver. And so this is spread out over 2 years, as we talked about what changes we're looking at. Why are you not receiving burnable materials at Dunning? Well, as mentioned, with the approved development occurring in the commercial industrial development, industrial property, this did not require it to come to council for approval because the property already existed. And it's also in such close proximity that we needed to address this change immediately due to provincial legislation. So they have development rights and they can construct buildings, and they are doing that, and so because of that, we would be stopping burning anyways. The RM also must abide by these provincial legislations, and that's a 400-meter radius, which basically impacts us. Due to the development already approved, this site will need to cease burning combustible materials, and so we did that as of June 1st. Also, in order to take into consideration with this, the discussions have taken place between the RM of St. Clements and the nearby municipality, which is East St. Paul, to see if there's an opportunity of receiving some of our solid waste material from our residents. And there will be negotiations, and that's why we've only changed power this year, and we're not looking at change. We're doing a gradual change to make sure that everyone still has the opportunity to utilize the service, and it'll be made available at this point. The CAO and the mayor have given very good indication that they would be open to it. We've shared information as to how much material we're receiving, and so there would be an opportunity. So we're beginning to finalize some of those discussions. In the next couple of months, I hope to have that all evaluated and completed. And we can also take a look at also participating with them in the wood chipping program so that we can reduce burning on both sides. Right now, they would be, part of this is, of course, they're also looking at receiving our burnables, as well as transfer station materials. At the same point, we will continue to receive burnables at the Clark transfer station, and it is a better suited site for burnable materials, and we'll continue to receive materials there into the future. And it is necessary to make this change now, as the pits in Dunning were all. Why did we make that change at that certain time? We discovered that the building permit had been issued by Red River. As I mentioned, they don't have to come to the RM for approval. So when we discovered we had to move quickly, and as the the pits were already full, we had to make the decision to be able to abide by legislation. And it's already limited as to the time of year that we're looking at. Will Dunning be closed this year? No. These 2 transfer stations that are in this area are only being adjusted for hours this year, and there will be adjustments throughout. We did provide all that information on our website. It's also provided in here that I can quickly discuss if you have any questions to it. Thank you, Madam Mayor, that's my presentation.
Thank you for that. Any questions from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Is it a lot more work for administration like to have the monthly billing? You're allowed to. make
There would
payments.
be a negligible amount of additional work, that there's always going to be additional work, but it's not. We're already doing a billing system for our sewer and water services, so it's just utilizing the same system.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I just have to ask, is there more information on the slideshow that got chopped off, where what are the changes and will Dunning be closing this year?
Yes.
That we can expand on, so when the residents see this?
When the residents, this information was put out on May the 8th, and it was available shortly thereafter. Here's the proposed operational changes to the transfer stations, and so anything that was cut off, that's here already. And so this has already been available on our website. As you can see, it identifies the same information and even additional information more than the slideshow, as well as we have frequently asked questions, and those are the frequently asked questions that just went through, and it provides all the details related to each one of those frequently asked questions, and a little bit more detail even than what the slideshow showed. In addition to that, we also had the long-term plan, which isn't shown in here, and I'll just go up on our website to show you. And under our services, under landfill transfer stations, there's a per station transfer fact sheet. That's a frequently asked questions. Proposed operational changes to the stations, and then the new side. So when we go into here, proposed operational changes, and you click download this. Not only does it cover phase 1, but it covers phase 2. So we've got phase 1, same thing. Phase 2, as well as phase 3, and phase 4, and phase 5, if all things work out with sharing with East St. Paul. So the intent is the future phases, of course, will be reviewed by council and we'll make the changes as necessary. But this is what we're proposing at this point. So as you can see, we went from 2 days a week, then it goes down to 1 day a week, which is really a change. It used to be 2 days a week in the winter time, so it'll go down to 1 day a week in the winter of 2023, from November to March. So Dunning will stay open, and then it's the same changes. So the only change at Clark was that the hours of operation changed. So Clark will stay open the 2 days a week that it used to still stay open. And the only other change is the Gull Lake. In phase 3 is after April 1st, so it's given enough time to be able to do dialogue with East St. Paul and make sure that there's another transfer station within the vicinity. Then we're looking at Dunning being closed. And Clark will still remain open in the following summer for the 3 days a week. And then if everything works out appropriately and enough use, then we will look at closing Clark in the following winter. And that would be the overall rollout plan.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So for clarification purposes, today, what we're considering is the bylaw itself,
Correct.
which is the billing, the opting in, the few changes to curbside pickup. So these additional service changes are being presented at this point, but we're not approving them today.
You're approving the current additional changes for the remainder of the summer till November.
Yeah, but
And then
there's
the rest of
still
the, there are
possibilities.
still chances to come back, and we'll be reviewing and bringing back to council for the rest of it.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, anybody else, anything? Okay, so do you want to proceed with second reading?
We can proceed with second reading, or you can open it up for questions, and then we can proceed with second reading.
I think we should open it up for questions first then, so we don't have to do a public hearing.
No, we don't have to do a public hearing.
Okay, did you have anything that you wanted to share with council, Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
If you want to come forward to the podium and state your name for the record. No, you can stand at the podium if you want, or is it easier to sit?
I'm Dennis Harrison. Ratepayer, live on Dunning Road. Family's been in the RM for, I don't know, close to 100 years or more. And I'd like to speak to some of the changes that Mr. Joshi made reference to in his presentation. Firstly, is the information, did I hear you correctly, that the information is only available on the website and there was no hard copy mail literature sent to any of the residents with regards to the changes to the Dunning Road transfer station?
That information was provided on our website, correct?
And
when
there
it
was no
was,
mail.
and that the new bylaw was being created, correct?
And there was no mail.
Not a mail out, it was only provided to existing residents of the curbside collection program.
So if you're not on the curbside collection program, you would hear nothing about this, and if you didn't go to the website for visitation purposes, you would never realize there was changes being made or proposed.
Yes, and we did put it in the Selkirk record twice, telling people to go to the website to get more information related with the changes to the bylaw.
Thank you. But my point is a mail ought to be considered if there's changes in the future for the residents that are being affected. I had a number of questions, but you in your presentation addressed many of them, so I thank you for that. One of my questions that, or comments that I'll refer to is you use the terms economically friendly within your presentation.
Environmentally, and
Environmentally friendly, pardon me. Would it not be prudent, if the Dunning Road transfer station is going to be kept open for the times that you propose, if we're going to be environmentally friendly, could we not have a chipper or recycling of our own for grass clippings, leaves, chip for return? It's environmentally friendly, it would be welcomed within the community, it would be welcomed within the municipality. Has that not been entertained?
that has been entertained. That's been part of the review that we'll be doing with East St. Paul. The review has occurred with the Winnipeg Metro region to get a large chipper that can be shared among all the individual communities, or that they would partner together to take a look at. So there's a woody waste program that's being explored. We have looked at it. It wasn't economically available for us to be able to do that ourselves. And so we've looked at the possibility of partnering. And so the dialogue has been occurring with East St. Paul to say, what can we do on this entire woody waste, and look at what we can do. We're also going to be exploring composting and other things that are needed as part of the next round of bids to our garbage collection.
And the status of that, a resident, taxpayer is going to have to check the website to be updated on the status. Is that correct? Because from your comments so far, I'm not expecting any reciprocity in advising any of the residents, taxpayers by any other mode other than the journal, or go to the website daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you choose.
I think it's a little unfair to say that the next changes will occur. I apologize that we didn't choose to communicate this by mail out to every resident in the community. This was a program that was affecting specific residents initially, and then there was some other operational changes. We, as legislatively required, when bylaws are put forward, we're required to put them in the paper and make sure that there's some level of notification. Yes, there'd be better levels of communication. Doesn't that mean that we will not explore those? Of course we will. And in the past, we've also had provided information when we were working on our programs through newsletters and various other means that we look at communicating.
That's why I was most surprised to have the landfill attendant advise me that this is going to be a change when I have received hard copies of any other changes that are happening in the municipality.
That was unfortunate when the landfill attendant started informing people. It was miscommunication as well that went along with it, where they were communicating to people that it was all being closed and there was no changes that was gonna happen overnight. And that I can't speak to as to why the landfill attendant decided on their own to start sharing information before we had an opportunity to be able to tell people that. What the landfill attendant was instructed to tell people was about the burning. And this other operational change, yes, we were looking at other ways of communicating that as well.
To be clear, the landfill attendant only advised me on the burn pit.
Okay.
There's no other information. I mean,
We've had lots of calls from residents who said that they were told Dunning Transfer Station was closing in June.
I made 2 calls to the RM to ask for the public works or a counselor to call me with regards to what I had heard. I never received a call back. I called a 3rd time, and someone from the administration called me and tried to address my concerns. They don't have the power or the authority to make any changes or respond. I wish somebody in authority would return the calls. Might that have been you? That might have been a good choice.
I apologize for that.
I accept it, but I certainly hope in the future that when there's changes, the residents are provided with an explanation or notice of such changes. There's always solutions to problems. We just have to look for the ideas. It's very easy to criticize, very hard to think of ideas, but you and the residents do have that ability to do that. That's why I encourage you to involve the residents that are affected by this. It's a small community. Mr. Besserowicz lived there and still lives there. I would say the vast majority, extreme vast majority, take the utmost care of their properties. Without this service, that's one huge disadvantage we have. We're just looking for ideas to help. We just don't want anything taken away.
Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
No, I just want to make a comment. I think, this is just my opinion, I just think it made the most sense knowing that East St. Paul transfer station is not hours away, but literally minutes away, minutes. So when the decision comes that Dunning will be closed, ratepayers need to drive minutes away if we're able to garner an agreement with East St. Paul. So if I'm driving to Dunning, which I've been doing, say, for 30, 40 years, as you're saying, if it does close, for you to drive a few more minutes down the road to East St. Paul, if we're able to garner an agreement with them, you're still getting a service. So in my mind, when I was looking at this, that made the most sense to me. It's not like we would close a transfer station if there was no other transfer station within hours or an hour or half an hour. It's minutes away to the next one. So that was my comment, is that just down the road, you can still pull to the right and go to a transfer station.
And maybe Mr. Boulanger, I misspoke or you misunderstood or I misspoke my comments. That's not the issue. I have no issue. Your explanation is one of the ideas many of us residents thought.
Great, good, yeah.
There's no opposition to that whatsoever. The issue is it seems so forthright in commanding and not giving notice that many of us residents were ticked off.
Okay, I understand.
Like I said, I'm here looking for ideas rather than merely being told this is what you're not going to do. Yes, the RM of East St. Paul is moments away. It's basically the same distance.
Yeah.
And I don't see any difficulty in partnering up. That's not the issue. And if I misspoke, I apologize.
Mr. Harrison, I have one question and you know, you're talking about not getting a letter in your mailbox saying that we're making these changes. And we get that, and we always do, and we have talked about communicating better with some of our residents because we know that not everybody is on the computer or goes to the website or anything like that. But are you signed up for our newsletter? I know we haven't done one for a couple of months now, but are you on that or are you on our Connect? Because that is sometimes the way we push out the information, I'm gonna say.
I don't want to be misspoken again. I'm not sure. I believe I used to get the newsletters,
Okay,
but did I sign up? I'm positive I did, but again, I'll blame it on my vintage that maybe I made a mistake.
well, no, I'm just thinking, you know, like that is another way that we do send out information. I mean, it's not as detailed as what this would have been if we would have sent a mailer out to you, but, you know, there might have been a blurb in the newsletter that says, check the website for more information, and that's why I asked that question.
I'm almost certain, but again, for me to commit to that, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but I'm gonna say if you're not
I'll
on
double
our.
check, so you know.
Yeah, and also to connect for emergencies and things like that, like I know that, you know, we have the connect, and if there's a fire in your area and it seems to be coming closer to your home, or there's a power outage, we shoot it out that way too, so,
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
just a comment.
Yep, thank you.
Just because it's great, Dennis, doesn't mean that you're forgetful.
No, it's the wisdom of this world. It's not great.
It's just for Mr. Harrison's clarification, so I would like to stress, first of all, the issue related with stopping the burnables immediately, that was a timing issue, because we were not aware that the building permit had been applied for until we found out the building permit was being issued. At which point we had to react because of provincial legislation that was there, that they were beginning construction immediately, and because of the amount of material that was already in the burnable, in the burn pits, we had to make an operational decision saying we can't receive anymore. So that was an immediate one, and that's where we had to have the attendant. So that one, a mailer after the fact wouldn't have accomplished that to the same extent. As to the rest of these operational changes, I completely agree that we should have been able to find a way. We did have some challenges in our, that we had been in the process of replacing our communication staff person, and I'm not going to make excuses, but that was, that's a challenge that we plan to not make that mistake again, to be able to do that. Our intent would be, as much as possible, to send out material usually through the newsletter, as sometimes going through a mailer to all residents can take a significant amount of time and resources to get those mailers out. And then what you have is the risk as well, that some people will claim that I didn't receive it. We had that same problem in a previous communication that we did in the north for Grand Marais. So we're constantly learning, we're doing our best to try to find ways to communicate with our residents. We have increased our communications by making all our meetings online, so people can refer to them if they found out about something, they can go back and review these meetings. We've also started providing more information on our website, and we are looking at enhancing it even more. But it's a constant challenge of trying to figure out what's the best way of communicating, and I do take responsibility that we could have done a better job on communicating on these operational changes.
Accepted, and Madam Mayor, also put some responsibility on you to fully accept that I have to do my part as well. I say that with all due respect. I must comment on one other word you said, media construction. There still is no construction.
We can only go by what they indicate on their building permit, right? And we have to react. If they showed up on site and they started constructing and we were still burning, we'd be
Have a fire
liable.
practice. Have a fire practice that come for that. Those are my comments. I thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I just want to thank Mr. Harris for coming, and you just, we talk about communication around the table here quite often, and it just emphasizes the paper sometimes that everybody doesn't want to be on the computer. We've even spoken about putting little boxes, you know how they put the little libraries at the, certain homes have along the way, that you can go borrow a book. I think we have one out here in our property. And we even speak about putting a box that you can pick up a paper copy of our newsletter too, so.
I don't disagree, but from my perspective,
Yep.
in my head and in my heart, the most important part of communication is when you leave a message, somebody in authority returns it. To me, it's complete disregard and disrespect for anybody that you don't have the common courtesy to do that. That's most important in my life. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome. Okay, so we have,
You grew up in yourself.
Oh, yeah, they, from the farm.
Yeah.
Didn't you go to school with him? No. I went to school with his older brother, David. Yeah. It's okay. He worked for us before.
Who did? Oh, did he?
He worked for the government too. Okay.
Okay, so let's move on with, I think we're going to do the second reading of the bylaw, if I remember correctly, if that's where we're at.
correct, resolved bylaw 3 of 2023 being a bylaw to regulate and establish controls over the residential storage, collection, removal, and disposal of solid waste and recyclables be given second reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Boulanger seconds. Any further discussion? Here, oh, go ahead, Councillor Strang.
So I just would like some clarification on this. As there's some things here, I totally agree, like, can I just have clarification on like our bylaw? I know Councillor Spicer just asked for it previously, but is this just for the pickup of our,
What we have is,
this
A
isn't for the
request.
transfer stations, is it?
it is making the change for the transfer stations for the remainder of this year.
Okay. Then you can carry on. Thank you.
You're good with that?
Yep.
Nothing further?
No, that's good, thank you.
Anybody else, anything? Okay, I have a mover, I have a seconder. I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
Okay, for third reading, resolve bylaw 3 of 2023 being a bylaw to regulate and establish controls over the residential storage, collection, removal, and disposal of solid waste and recyclables be read a third time.
Okay, before I ask for a mover and a seconder, please remember this is third reading and it is an automatic recorded vote, so can I have a mover, please? Councillor Corbis, Councillor Vazarovic seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And Heather, did you get that? Okay. And that is carried. Okay, moving on to communications for information.
We didn't finish the accounts and financial statements, Madam Mayor.
Oh, right, okay. So let us go back to number 7, the accounts and financial statements. So 7.1, closed list of accounts.
Resolved, council approved the June 13, 2023 list of accounts, check numbers 230000771 to 230000954 in the amount of $1,055,827.85 for payment.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, second. Councillor Strang. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
Those questions you had, you didn't want to bring them up, or?
Oh, well, you gave me the answer for the one.
Councilors, I know it's been approved, and I apologize, Madam Mayor, but just,
That's okay.
there were two questions. One was regarding a large bill for pizza that Councilor Spicer asked, and that was for our fire departments when they fought the Clark Road grass fire, where we had been in both stations, so it was a little bit higher than normal for pizza, so just so that you know, because there were lots of firemen involved in the event, and the cost of that was a little higher than normal. The other is regarding a bill that was an invoice for some damage that was due to one of our graders hitting a hydro pole. And so it was done as part of the insurance, we're processing it, but in the meantime, we process it. If you like, I could show you pictures of it if you want to see it.
It's okay.
Okay.
We believe you.
How bad did the pole damage the grader?
Broke it. Broke the pole.
I said it the other way around as a joke.
Okay, the next item.
Is Kristen's Walk for Kids for grants that were requested. And this is a $200 grant for the Walk for Kids. And you, as you know, that they've come in the past asking for this. In the past, they have come and done a presentation. They didn't come to do a presentation this year, but it's for $200 and we're recommending approval.
Okay, if you have a resolution, let's bring it forward, please.
Resolved, council approve the following 2023 requested grant budget. Kristen's Walk for Kids 2022, $200.
Is that 2022 or
2023.
2023?
Should be 2023.
Next mover, please. Councillor Horvis, Councillor Bazarova, seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next one is the Manitoba Highland Gathering.
Yes, they've requested for $7,000 this year, and last year they were awarded $6,000. And the last time they had last time they had the Highland Gatherings was in 2019 due to COVID, and they were awarded $6,000. And this year they're having Highland Gatherings again, and as well as all costs going up, they are requesting for 2023 $7,000. We're recommending approval as this has been one of the grants that council has approved on a regular basis.
Yes, and it is over here now rather than in the city of Selkirk, so that makes it kind of nice. And that is in a couple of weeks. I think it's the 24th and 25th of June.
At the rec center.
At the rec center, yes. Okay, so if we have a resolution, do you want to bring it forward?
Resolve, council approve the 2023 requested grant for the Manitoba Highland Gatherings 2023, $7,000.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, second Councillor Strang. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Maybe we could donate that broken pole practice.
For the
The
cost.
cable.
It was a little bigger than the poles they use.
Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
Do the other item, does St. Andrews and City of Selkirk, do they also donate
Sorry.
to?
I don't believe that they
You don't?
do, but I'll try and find out. I don't believe that they do, no.
I just thought they have to, do they have to give us their, do we see their books or anything, like just giving them a donation or no?
What's the 7,000?
Yeah.
There, on the package,
Yeah,
it just shows, I think, from, this must be from last year maybe, St. Andrews and Selkirk were 500.
oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
On that one.
How come, well, they ask for 7 and they give 500?
Could be, or they just ask for a donation or a contribution and they just give 500. I really couldn't tell you. Did we finish with that one? Okay. So moving on.
So this is the one that's come back, Madam Mayor, for the
Oh,
district
right.
and the Horizon Seniors. And
Did we find anything more out?
basically that they did contact Alexander and they haven't heard back, and Alexander's still deciding on it, even though this was mostly in Alexander. They are requesting 500. Our recreation manager is recommending that we approve it and that she will work with them in the future for securing funds from other sources and working on a better proximity sharing program. This would help them at least get started this year.
Okay.
It's on the council to decide.
Right, any questions from members of council? Then we'll bring the resolution forward and see where it goes.
Resolve council to approve the 2023 requested grant, STED and District New Horizons Seniors 2023, $500.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Spicer, second, please. Counselor Bazarowicz, any further discussion?
Question?
Go ahead.
So these guys are they reside in Alexander?
Yes.
Yeah, there was that community.
Yes. And there's a number, probably, there's a number of our residents that belong to
Okay.
the
On the
STEM.
borderline.
Yeah, it's on the border,
Yeah.
basically.
So I have a mover, I have a seconder. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. And he wants us to stay here.
As soon as we're in camera, there's many items.
Okay, where am I here?
Communication for action. Or
Okay,
information, sorry.
communication for information, is there anything there that any members of council wanted to bring forward? Lots of reports, lots of newsletters.
And so the two items that were not added on here, that were supposed to be on every meeting, I apologize for that. Councilor Strang, would you like me to address those now, or in my CAO update?
Either way, I was going to say when Councillor Spicer brought up about the CAO update, it is not either on the, it's not on the minutes either, so.
No, I have a CAO report that comes in once a month, but I do an update verbally every meeting.
Okay. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Well, no point doing it twice, right?
Okay. I'll do
Just
it
as
in my
long as we have a
CAO.
note, why I brought that up is just so our residents can go to that thing and, yeah, we spoke about it, there's a little bit of an update done over. I thought maybe less phone calls to the,
Understand,
Staff,
please. Yeah.
Okay, anything else that we need to talk about under the communications for info?
I was just gonna say for the Selkirk Foundation, the gentleman that was in earlier, if there's a Selkirk Foundation communication thing, he can go on here and there's actually all the phone number, the email, everything to connect to them. So
Yes, yes. And I'm not sure, I know that they're, they are very busy, but I was at a meeting on Friday and they're in full swing over there, so. Okay, and I guess the only other one I would like to kind of mention is the Lebo Community Club for their summer fest that they're planning to have on Saturday, July the 8th, from 1 to 10. It's in their newsletter. It looks like they're trying as hard as they can to raise funds for the upkeep and moving forward with the community club there, so I think that's great.
They got signs all along 59 highway as you're
Soak
coming
up
up
the
to
sun.
Lebo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they
the
got little
theme.
signs about everything, beer gardens, jump the whatever, do whatever, splash them, yes. Kind of neat to
hats
see.
off to those volunteers, that's fantastic,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess then we are down to our committee reports. I'm gonna start a little different today. I'm gonna start off with Councillor Bazarowicz today. What have you got to share with us, Glenn?
Well, I think all I have is FCM in Toronto from Thursday, May 25th to 28th. I attended Justin Trudeau's speech about, mostly about housing, making more housing, make it more readily available. Like some of us, and this is like a quote, was, forget the NIMBY, people don't own the neighborhood. If we want to put it there, if somebody wants to put it there, we should be backing and forget shutting it down because it's not their property. And he was pretty open about that. I thought anyway. And then Leader of the Opposition, Jagmeet Singh, he spoke more about healthcare items. When I did a Kensington Market tour, the Lakefront tour, trade show, and a few other things. That's it.
So were you able to get on more than one study tour? Because I think we were only allowed allowed to mark down for one when we were submitting our request?
Some of this I did on my own.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't really a tour as part of the conference?
No, I paid for some of it, just, some of the other guys were saying the same thing, that it was, like, we tried to go on another one there with St. Andrews, and what they were offering at the conference was a higher cost than what it was. And what we found that at some other conferences as well.
So they weren't spouses tours, they were just,
Same tour, only private.
because I didn't even really try, because a lot of the ones on the,
Oh, it was so packed.
well, in the study tours, a lot of them were a lot of walking. I know Councillor Strang went on one, and it was an awful lot of walking, and I just couldn't do it, so I took in some other sessions instead of, so. And that's all you have for today?
That one too.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Horvis.
Okay, on June the 3rd, I attended the Gull Lake picnic with Councillor Sutherland and the mayor, and there was the grand opening of their shed there now, their cover for that. And it was well received, there was a lot of people there, and it was nice. We had a hot dog, and we went to the hall prior to that, and they went over their elections and everything. We didn't get bombarded there at all. We were treated very well that one. And then on June the 5th, I went to the Gordon Howard Center, and there was sort of like a brain trust there. They're trying to find out what kind of funding they need to maybe move their building or buy a different building and build a building. So it was sort of like they asked us a whole bunch of different questions, what we thought that they should do. And then we broke off into groups, like if everybody thought that they should build a swimming pool with the new one, then they had that kind of a group. And we worked in different little groups like that and went around, and then it came to a consensus at the end with, go ahead.
So they're thinking of moving out of that building, Dave?
Well, some of them want to move out of it. They don't know what they want to do, and they're trying to get a consensus, I guess, because a lot of them say that this building's not accessible for older people. It's not big enough, they say. It should be open longer, and all the different kinds of stuff. They had, there's actually a lady that works there. She's with the Alzheimer's Association or whatever. She works in that building and that. They have different groups with that, how these people integrate with other people and their programs and that. It's kind of interesting. I enjoyed it actually. And then on June the 8th, I went to the Red River College grad in Saltburg there with Douglas and Fisher River, and they honored all the grads there. And actually the mayor of Saltburg made a speech there. It was actually pretty good. He was telling everybody to keep up their education, doesn't matter how old you are or whatever. There were different ages of graduates there, and all mostly indigenous people, so yeah, it was good. And that's it for me.
Okay, go ahead, Glenn.
Just something I forgot to add here, like just for councilors that weren't there. The FCM elections, Joe Massey is now one of our reps. Very good choice, I think. You can do a lot.
We'll see.
I'm confident.
We'll see. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May the 31st, I attended remotely the asset management presentation put on by AMM. It was done by Matt DeLorme from AIM Network. And essentially, a lot of this is being paid through FCM. So there is, of course, there's a little plug. They'll come and do more training if you want to spend some money. But a lot of it came down to real basic stuff because it was only a short time period. statements. Basically, asset management is your service delivery level versus what you can afford. We talked about having a dashboard so you can review it from time to time. Some of this, for example, a draft dashboard, there's a spreadsheet available. Like some of this computer programming is open source, so it's free. You don't have to pay for it. As I said, FCM is funding some of these processes. They use QGIS, which is also free to view on their systems. Of course, we're a little bit higher tech here already, so we've already got the better system for mapping, and that's for all linear assets. They use Excel spreadsheets for facilities data and fleet. They don't really do detailed engineering estimates with this program. They, talk to the folks who you have employed. They do have a capital inventory planning tool. It's Excel based. And so basically, it's for funding capital and providing capital projections. And many types of reports can be printed off, which then leads you into telling you what kind of reserves you need to do what you're planning to do. We'll also do risk assessments and help you figure out what to prioritize. Gives you information so then you could go to public engagements. Example, say we want to provide a higher level of service in an area, but then it shows you what the cost is going to be. So then you can go to the people and say, okay, we really want it if it costs this much. I guess his closing statements were is you can't ignore it anymore. You gotta do this. As I stated before, AIM Networks does have some free resources. The FCM also has a resource library. And then the natural asset there's a website, mnai.ca, that they'll provide you with tools to figure out what your natural assets are. So there is a change coming to FCM funding streams. The project will need to be climate risk adaptation focused. So climate is going to be a part of their decision-making process. Are you adapting to climate change? St. Andrews Long and Dam was the same day. Sounds like it's going to be the last meeting. The quick and dirty is it's supposed to be open on June the 30th. And the grand opening is supposed to be on July the 16th. Quickly, the heritage update now. In total, they've got almost 20,000 pieces of artifacts
Wow.
since we started tonight. You might find some more yet, but that's where they're at. They did, as you, maybe some of you know, they had shutdowns. I took it upon myself because I had a few residents express some concerns. It was on the website. Communication is a reoccurring theme today. It was on the website, and we did post it on the website, and it said, look at the local reader boards for more information. Well, there weren't any local reader boards up. So I had people phoning me because they'd go and there was no notification up to get to the bridge and it was blocked off. So they had
There
to
were
turn around.
reader boards, but they
On
weren't in
59?
close proximity to the
Yeah.
bridge, because there was one on 59.
Yeah.
Well, there was nothing on Henderson Highway whatsoever.
Yeah, there was one.
On either side of the bridge, there, those were working.
Yeah. Nobody goes on Henderson.
Apparently not, except for the people who phoned me.
And actually, that did cause a schmozzle over here on this bridge, because I was in Selkirk a
Well,
couple
it
of
was-
times, and the traffic was backed up from the bridge right to the steam plant
Mhm.
corner,
Yeah.
going into town.
Yep.
Mhm.
So they did respond a couple of days later and told me that, yeah, the reader boards were up. Well, not everywhere. So be it.
So is that the date, so it's gonna be open on the 30th, and is July 16th the day that we're,
The ribbon cutting apparently.
Ribbon cutting, that's what they're telling me.
Who's cutting the ribbon?
Both
They're,
arms.
It's being set up through administration.
They put
So
the
we
two
will
mares in
be-
the middle of the bridge so you can get hit first.
Okay.
They're involving both RMs as well as Pegasus on the bridge cutting. I wasn't able to attend that, Heather will update us, but
June the 1st, Northeast Community Health Committee, because I've taken enough time already, there's a report in the information package. So if you want to review that. Basically though, there's still going to be challenges with emergency rooms being open over the summer. Lack of staff.
Staffing.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Spicer. Go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
June 7th, the only thing I attended was the Selkirk Comprehensive Award Night. It was, it's always fun going there because you see these students going up and being recognized for their scholastics and everything else. 3 of our recipients were all from St. Clements, obviously, for the St. Clements Scholarship, and that's it for me.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead.
Sorry, yes, and I, what date, Dave?
June the 8th.
June the 8th, we had a weed board meeting,
Oh,
and we went through our past minutes and approved the board to start moving ahead with their contracts.
okay. Councillor Strang.
May 24th, 29th, I was also at FCM. On the 25th, I did actually quite a few workshops. Maybe I'll just sort of go over quickly the workshops through the whole conference. Bear with me, sorry. One of them I attended was, it was called Help FCM Build a National Climate Resilient Program. There was 4 municipal people and 2 FCM, and the 4 local government speakers. One of them was Dwayne Nickel from the city of Selkirk, and they went through different things that they've done to make their areas that they live in more green. And it was with transportation, and the city of Selkirk does have an electric bus coming, because I was joking around with them too, but they said they already ordered one, so they're moving ahead on that. water waste, energy, land use sector, and they all went through different areas of how we can all, sitting around the table, think in making things more green. The whole thing, Councillor Brazeroich said about housing and climate change was a big thing at the conference. I went to another workshop that it was a bunch of scientists, and they said that and they weren't running the government down, but they said the government speaks about climate change so much that now it's just going through in one ear out the other, that they said we really aren't doing anything, and we're almost past the point of healing it. We're not going to see it, but our children will see it down the road. So they said when we're looking at different things through our communities, to always think of that. Went to a luncheon for CN. They spoke on their programs and services that they have for municipalities and communities with emergencies, floods, fires, the maintenance that they have on the railway through different communities. What's here? Another workshop I went to, we thought we were going to a blanket exercise. I went with the mayor, but it was a really good one. It was, and this is the book from it, it was put on by the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, and it was 4 different people from different ethnic backgrounds, and how, like, we're so big into with the Indigenous right now, but it's these other people were coming out and saying how it affects them also, because Canada becoming a melting pot, and a lot of people coming over from other countries, whether they're coming from war or just coming to make a better life, but how they're all treated. So that was a very interesting one. Not what we were expecting at the time, but they had little programs that they had different tables set out, but they didn't even get to that. Actually, our mayor got up and spoke about our renaming of our street, and when she said the name, everybody just went so quiet in the place, and you heard, everybody took a breath, and that before, it was just, it is actually very moving, very touching, and a lot of people were coming up to her later to commend our council and our municipality for going forward. I also did see Prime Minister Trudeau speak, and his thing was on the housing and how he's going to make things more affordable, because with inflation right now too. So he talked about zoning, moving things forward also for our municipalities, and how we do that. That a lot of people don't want this, they want the space, but they said, like, you know what, space is very valuable. And going on that, I went on to a study tour right after that, and it was called Canoe Landing Community Center. And what it is, it's a community center built right next to 2 schools, and around it is 5 apartment condos, which when you look up, you know how tall the CN Tower is. You can't even see the CN Tower. That's how tall that these units are. So what happens is the school grounds, and it's a private school and it's a public school, and they use these grounds, whether it's basketball, soccer fields, just other community center, a daycare is in there, but they share the public space for the school, and once 4 o'clock comes, then it all turns into, for all these condos around there, because green space is so valuable. Once 10 o'clock comes, the gates are shut to these, because it's all in a fenced-in area. So they said they don't have any problems there, no vandalism, anything. So some other workshop I went to. I also went to I went to a resolution. They had 66 resolutions for FCM to support. Another study tour, I waited, and I got on one that was supporting Toronto's grassroots community. And what it is, it's combining the history of the old buildings to keep on expanding and making everything new. They sit down with 14 architects, come to a council, and that's where they come up and get with ideas. They pick out an area of the city where so many buildings, and they come and sit there, and they'll bring their ideas back to them. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
They just offer that service?
Yep. And they went, another thing is in that walk, and you're right, we did lots of walking that day. I think I did over 18,000 steps. But it was cold there, so it was okay. It wasn't the heat like we had here. We also went to the Canada's Walk of Fame. I didn't even know they had that there, so we're walking along and here you're with the stars all on the thing. But one of the things that they said was they're not taking care of that grate. So that's one of their projects that they have set up for the City of Toronto. I also did go see the speaker, Melissa Lantzman. She's the deputy leader of the PC Conservative Party, and she's the first Jewish woman elected in the PC Party. And she was all on against hate, and she just came out and said how with her coming on board and being, she came up and said it's almost like a men's club, but how things have changed with the women coming into politics too. So, and I also went and saw Jagmeet Singh speak, and he was on affordable housing, jobs, affordability across the country, rent and inflation. One of the things on that, one of the study tours that I went to rent is $2,800 for a 1-bedroom in Toronto and $3,200 for a 2-bedroom. And they said that lots of times that the grandparents live with the families because the parents, both of them have to be working to even afford to live in.
2,800 for an apartment with 1 bedroom.
With 1 bedroom, yeah.
Housing is horrible.
Some of the things they had for us for the evening, some of the venues, like we went to the museum, like just some of the venues that they had were very nice. I wouldn't have gone to them otherwise. And then on the 31st, I went to the Red River Basin. I only went to the one day, but we had a tour, and it was with Armand Belanger, and he is from the East Interlake Watershed District. And I actually brought this back, and I was testing him for different things, asking him, well, like, when are the meetings? Because I thought, well, maybe there's something altogether, and he said, no, it's up to your watershed person. And I see to our meeting tomorrow night that we'll be here, we're the host, for the Red River Basin, our watershed person.
Cooks Creek?
Yeah. Well, it's not Cooks Creek anymore.
It's
North Red or something.
North Red or Red River.
But anyways, he'll be here. But this just shows all the things that their watershed has done, and it's actually quite a bit. We went to 2 different farms, and they showed how the farmers now in their lowlands, or where they would be flooding all the time, that now they're making wetlands because they're becoming more environmentally friendly to the.
It's the in-vogue thing to do.
Yeah.
So that they're getting all the
And they're
retention
getting-
funds are making.
Yes, they're making ponds now,
Yeah.
so. Anyways, that's it.
That's
all.
it for you?
Enough with that. Now I can breathe.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Thank you. May 31st, I attended the grad at Lord Selkirk Schools promoting Aboriginal student success. Well attended. One thing I found kind of funny, Mayor Larry was there and Joy. So they introduced Larry Selkirk, and that was Mayor George Sewell. I'm glad I didn't stand, like they stood up. So, okay, well, and St. Clements, that was it.
Oh, they didn't have your name.
Not that I cared, but it was just, I just found it strange, you know, like, no, they just said, and it's in St. Clements, so. But anyway, it was well attended. June 3rd, Mayor Debbie Feeblecorn and Councilor David Corbis and myself attended the Gull Lake AGM. And then we ribbon cutting at their picnic shelter area afterwards. June 8th, Selkirk Wheat Board meeting. We went to approve the budget and went to elections of the officers. And one thing that did come up, they have to have approval from each municipality, like for our PR roads, which doesn't make sense, you know. But all the PR roads in our municipality, we are supposed to send in a letter to the weed board to give approval for them to, and that didn't happen,
To cut them?
to spray.
Or just-
Even though, but to it didn't make sense to any of us, that they need that letter of approval from each,
Municipality.
yes, and,
To go and spray the
Their own.
PR roads.
Yeah, it's their roads, it's their right-of-ways, highways right-of-ways, the province's right-of-ways. It's not just weeds on their property, so our weed board will go spray it and we'll tell them we gotta clean it up. But the RM has to give approval for the weed board to go do it. It's just another way of, like we were saying, it's another way of just slowing the process down. They don't wanna make eye contact with it, so why does the RM have to give the weed board approval to go in to take care of the province's
Provincial
weeds?
roads.
Makes no sense.
but for Kristen to do her job, she has to have
She
the
has to
approval.
do that.
I think she was gonna get a hold of Deepak. It was,
Okay.
maybe miscommunication, it was supposed to come from Public Works, and she said Greg didn't send it in. Wasn't a big thing, it just, I
Can't
guess,
do it until she has that letter.
so, yeah,
Okay.
and that's it.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I'll quickly do mine. I've been to some of the same things that others have been to, so I'm gonna try and shorten it here. May 23rd, we had our regular council meeting. May 24th, 29th, FCM in Toronto. I was at some of the same things that Sandra was at. I was at a couple of the ones that Glenn was at. One I did go to was, there was an asset management one sponsored by the Mental Health Commission of Canada and one on CSA standards. And the gal that did, well, she was kind of moderating the CSA standards. She used to be the mayor of a town in Alberta, and that's how I got to know her, first of all. And then she, I don't know whether she got defeated or chose not to run in one of the Alberta elections, and now she's working with CSA standards. So it was kind of good to see her. I hadn't seen her for quite some while, so. I did see a couple of the party speakers. And as Sandra said, there was a number of mix and mingle events, and it was good to speak to people from across the country who have some of the same issues that we do. But I still found that some of the sessions were geared more for bigger centers and not so much the rural communities. So that kind of sometimes frustrates me, because I want to talk about rural stuff, not what's happening in the city of Toronto or whatever. But I guess because of the way it's set up, it just happens to work out that way. So, and next year's is in Toronto, not Toronto, it is in Calgary next year. Then on May 31st and June 1st, I was at the Red River Basin Commission. As Councillor Strang said, we took the tour of some of the wetlands and the projects that the EICD has been working on. And I attended the meeting the next day, and there was a presentation on water quality, simulating flood mitigation strategies, and then each member gave a brief report from their area, and the executive director gave his report. And the 2024 RBC conference is in Fargo in January of next year. Gull Lake Ratepayers Association, Gull Lake Water Management, and ribbon cutting. Both Dave and David have talked about that, but I will just mention that the Gull Lake Water Management Board has received funding to continue their work at the boat launch to clean and decontaminate any boats that have come from other water bodies to keep the lake free of zebra mussels. And now they have another invasive species in the waters in the area, not at Gull Lake. Gull Lake still has nothing, so they're being very diligent at keeping all the invasive species out of there. But the other one is the spiny water flea, which is a very tiny little bug, and I think we've talked about it before, so.
It's
Worse than the zebra mussels.
Well, they've extended that program up to Clear Lake and that too, where there are a lot of
Everywhere.
them are not in there anymore.
Yeah, so, and as they said, we headed off off to the picnic shelter to have lunch and do the ribbon cutting at the picnic shelter. And it's very, very nice. They worked very hard to get that done. I had a John Q board meeting on Friday, and I will fill you in camera on that one. And Selkirk and District Community Foundation, there is a nominating committee meeting. We do not have any people to nominate this year. The slate is full for the board. We did have one new member at the table for the nominating committee, and that was Jack Park, representing the Manitoba Métis. And next year, there will be 2 seats to be filled. There are 2 people that will be finished their 2 3-year terms, and one of them is our resident, Barbara Knoll, and I think we had put her name forward. It'll be 6 years, so start thinking about it now so we can put some good names forward for next year when we have to do this. And I put it in everybody's mailbox, the newest newsletter from the Selkirk and District Community Foundation, and that will be in the record next week. And there's also been a number of grants awarded for various projects throughout the region, and they're all listed in there, or lots of them are listed in there. And that's all I have. Deepak.
Well,
And the wedding,
I was away, went to the MCM from the 27th to the 29th, I guess that's what it was. 24th to the 29th for the FCM. I attended some of those events. Got sick a couple of mornings, so I had some challenges. Did attend same Lastman and some of the other ones. We went to the CN presentation as well as I had several meetings with the RMs that I would like to discuss in camera that I had with East St. Paul and West St. Paul, and as well as some discussion around St. Andrews. Although there were no St. Andrews reps there. The other is I attended some of the sessions, and I had some special discussions with some of the presenters at the booths, and we got one presenter coming over. We're setting up a program with us to take a look at our service tracker to do a better communications plan using artificial intelligence that I've been talking about, that's already looking at. I also talked with another one that I would like to look at experimenting with, which is bringing in hydrogen fitting, fitting in a device onto your diesel equipment that fills up with water, converts it to hydrogen.
Innovation.
Yep. And with that, they're talking about 40 to 48% fuel savings, filling up with water.
So you run off the hydrogen.
Correct. You use basically the fuel from the diesel to separate the hydrogen out of the water and then run it. And also looked at also some other opportunities that we can take a look at for our recreation. There's an opportunity to have people register and develop programs that they can get their insurance directly off of our website and get third-party insurance and be covered for these events and things that they want to do, where they rent space or want to use space and those kinds of things. So I looked at some of those. And then I returned that I was on holidays for the next week and the week after that. Last week I had a meeting Monday at WMR over the daycares for phase 2, selection of some 31 daycare sites. And so we had a meeting on Monday to review the potential components, and then Thursday we had a meeting to discuss to select the potential. We we interviewed them, and then we had a selection on them. I also had a meeting on Tuesday with WMR on my holidays as well, to talk about the Housing Accelerator Program, which I'd like to discuss with council afterwards. And I have some ideas on how we can try to utilize that based on what Prime Minister Trudeau presented. I was looking at what they were offering, had some discussions in the city of Winnipeg. The larger cities were given the opportunity to present for the Housing Accelerator first. So it's a $2 billion program that the federal government has opened up for funding to all municipalities. The large municipalities were requested to fill in by June 15th. So in 2 days they were submitting theirs. And then the person that was hired by the city of Winnipeg, I brought her to a meeting with Colleen Sklar to see how we can then utilize the learning experience that Winnipeg has already done, because it's a consultant that's been hired. She used to work in CMHC, which is a CMHC program, so I thought it'd be good for us to take advantage of. It does cover some costs, we need to cover infrastructure costs. So, and it's, as Councilor Bassarovich says, it's about opening up your zoning and permitting and changing the way you're doing business. So an example could be redoing your zoning bylaw. An example could be you hire somebody as a consultant to redo the zoning bylaw in the southern part of the RM and figure it's going to cost $100,000 to make a submission to see if we can get funding for it 100%. So those are the kind of things that you can take advantage of. It's a national competition for the rest, and so that's why we have to get our act together. What they've said in discussions is that there will be a very short window. So they probably will announce sometime in July, and then the deadline will be probably August to fill it. And our municipality, we have to have at least 7 strategies that go along with it.
So how to deal with all those river lots, that would be a good thing,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's exactly what I mean about this rezoning. How to deal with those river lots in that area to encourage more densification. They're encouraging densification, that's the main thing. And it's all related to the housing crisis that's happening across the country. It's less than 1% available right across the country, and it's getting worse. And affordability is becoming a problem, but in the rural municipalities, in having discussions with CMHC, what we're looking at is probably the middle, the missing middle, as they call it. So not necessarily the low-income housing, but the missing middle that's becoming a major issue, which is multifamily, condominium, 55+ that needs to be addressed in the rest of the country. In the more urban centers, you're going to have the more lower income and affordable housing issues, because you need to have other systems that help to support those, like transit and all that.
Wraparound services.
Yes.
That's why that guy in Lockport is trying to go after that part of it for the CMHC part.
Well, no, there's 2 parts to this. He's getting a CMHC loan to do affordable housing. That's on the developer side. So if we set up a program, as an example, if we set up a program to say that we're going to refund so much in taxes, and then we pass a bylaw from council, that money can be refunded to us if we meet our targets. And this is all a short-term solution, 2023. So if our targets are here, and we said based on this strategy, we're going to have an additional 500 units come in the RM that we think based on the strategy. That 500 units, if we gave an incentive of $10,000 a unit, and that's the incremental taxes, just as an example, I'm just making up the numbers right now. That's 1 million, 500 units times 10,000, no. 500,000. So $500,000 you can have returned, and then the government will refund the municipality. So the developer gets low interest loan to be able to introduce it, and then whatever incentives they receive from the municipality is covered with federal funding. So those are some of the things. So there's a huge opportunity, but very short time frame to do it. And I felt it was important, but I can talk about that later with council.
So it's good you had a holiday.
Yeah, I also, sorry, and I also attended the conference, video conference on the Housing Accelerator program. And that was a 3-hour video conference, turned out to be. In between, I had a wedding for my child and so that's my.
Anything else?
Oh, yes, there are 2 other items, I'm sorry. So the other 2 items are that we're proceeding. I haven't received an update on the sewer connections in the RM, but I understand that they've been going smoothly. People have been coming into the office asking for connections about the locations. The contractor has been knocking door to door. It seems to be going smoothly, and they've been going from the south and moving north, as they said. And we haven't heard of any major issues, so the project is proceeding as expected for now. I missed the last meeting because I was on holidays. I'll get an update from Arlena. She's been away this week due to training, and I haven't been able to get an update from her. But I will get an update for the next council meeting, and I'll provide much more detail as to what our status. We're having a meeting with them every 2 weeks approximately, with the contractor to make sure everything's on track and there aren't any major issues being encountered. Again, communications, we need to do a little bit better on some of that level of communications to those individuals that are receiving the next round. So the contractor is going knocking door to door. And one of the things that I learned when I got back yesterday was that there may be an opportunity to see where are they headed to beforehand and see if we can contact those individuals to start thinking about how they want to connect, as opposed to when a contractor comes knocking on their door.
I just have a question. So is the contractor going and knocking on every door or just the doors that he's been in contact with?
The doors that have been identified
Oh,
for connections, so they were either on the local improvement district or on the cash
so
gate.
it's one of the, okay, perfect,
Okay,
sorry.
so he's only knocking on those doors and then saying, to you, I'm here to connect. We're gonna put the curb stop in. Would you like to do it? Are you planning to run the line? Do you have the line already? And then there's some back and forth discussion there. The other is, the information from municipal relations finally went up in front of the municipal board. And last week when I shot a check with the municipal board, they had received it, but they hadn't made a decision yet. And so I was hoping to bring it to this council meeting with the LID bylaw and the boring bylaws. It looks like we might be delayed to the next meeting of council to bring those 2 items forward. That allows us to move forward on the expansion of the water and the decommissioning of the sewer. I've already authorized the construction of the sewer, the decommissioning of the plant, and that requires some engineering work and some approvals from the provincial government. So WSP has been going forward on it. As I mentioned to council before, I've taken the risk of, if the bylaws for some reason don't get approved, which would be highly unlikely considering we had no opposition to either oral bylaw. So that's I think the tender went out for the water, and I'll have to verify. The Mountain Water Service Board, of course, is leading that. The other is the South St. Clements Activity Center. We've been proceeding. We had the application closed, and yesterday afternoon and morning, I had interviews with a potential project coordinator / owner's representative / designer that would be working with the RM. And I'll discuss that with council in camera as to considering it's a contract issue. And then once we've made the decision, I expect to make the decision very shortly, and we'll probably be requesting council to authorize the selection probably through electronic means next week. As I just have some last final questions to verify, and I'll explain doing on that part of it. So that covers those two items.
That's it?
That's it, other than the CAO update that'll be in Kevin.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
How about the building behind us, the daycare, how's that going?
That's going very smoothly. The project is caught up. We were phase 3 of the three phases, as in they were done in threes. We've caught up to phase 1. Now there's a contest to see who's the fastest, and St. Clement's looks like it's winning at this moment. We have the best site for the workers, much more easier access than all the other sites. And so the contractors all want to come here and work first. There's been some challenges throughout the entire project, so there were 3 done at a time out of the 7. The 7th one was delayed, which was Pegless, and it is just starting now. And so they're just doing the geotechnical to get the project started, so there's some challenges. There are, I can't remember now, the total that they're adding in for the next phase. There's another, I think, 9 in phase 1B. We were 1A, and there's been some learning experience we've done on this, so there's funding available. It'll be generator ready. We still are trying to find a way to see if we can save enough money on the budget to do the generators. Phase 2, 1B came in at the same price as 1A, but 1B or 2 are coming in significantly higher, and mainly because of the cost of inflation, construction inflation is occurring, and so that's been significant. On the phase 2, there are also two that are being done up north, one in Lake St. Martin and the other one in Norway House. And so those ones are quite a challenge, but it's looking like it's moving forward. We've been able to select the vendors on those. Our project is doing quite well. They just submitted the information to me today. Finally got the lease agreement, so I'll be able to begin the negotiations inside the lease with our vendor now for the daycare provision, and start asking them to get ready. The intent is that it should be all up and ready and handing over the keys in August. So we should be able to do a large announcement at that time.
Can I ask a stupid question? What happens if the daycare giver of that, something happens to that corporation or whatever that's looking after that building? Then what happens? Who becomes liable and responsible?
The building is ours.
Okay.
The building is ours, the land is ours, and basically the federal government, provincial government, which receive federal funds, will pay for the entire construction. It's supposed to be ours from now, and we're then obligated in a sense to go and find another daycare provider to go and fill in that space for the same deal, which is zero rent for 15 years. And so let's say if they stop operations in year 5, we'd have to do another 10 years of zero rent. And maintenance of the building, which shouldn't be a major issue because of the design of the building, as well as cleaning the snow and so forth. And then after year 15, then we can start charging rent so that we can build up an asset management fund, so that in the future when we need to replace the shingles or retar the roof in this case, we can do that through those funds from the rent. But after we're only obligated for 15 years, but the intent would be to run it as a daycare forever. And I will be having a meeting on the second daycare, hoping on the 20th, in the evening with the school board to see if we can get something resolved there. I've been given some indication that the province has made some decisions on phase 3, and they'll be moving forward on those quickly. They have learned a lot from their design and it showed to be very, the next step is they're faster and they've come back. I'm recommending instead of 74 for the next one to go to 104. Larger building, but it's a better design, so it is second round of RFPs. The contractors also learned how to build them better and how to give you a level of expansion and so forth. So I think we should take advantage of that. It'll be a bigger building, it'll be better for us in the long run. It's considered it's a free building.
So we've got an option, like,
We got a location and an option, and we already have our submission into the province, but I only put it in for 74, which I'll see.
it was just said before when they started this, when they said they're all identical. So now this next phase, it's gonna be.
The first phase were all identical, so every phase, for every major phase, so phase one, where an RFP was submitted, and then they were selected, and they all were identical. So then phase 1B, they went with the same model, with the same price quote. Phase 2, they had to go out to an RFP again, because you could only increase within a certain amount on any RFP, and then you have to go out, because otherwise somebody else would have said, why didn't I know that I was gonna get 100 of these instead of just 12? And so the rest are, they did the phase 2, which has been, and the hope is phase 3 can click on with phase 2. If not, then that will go up for an RFP. And so each time it goes out to an RFP, the contractor is any contractor is an opportunity to bid, and the best contractor is chosen.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is, we're getting 100% funding for this, and they're actually allowing us to get a bigger and better model.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
More space.
and it's already increased, like ours were, estimated about $4 million. The new ones, even the 74s are in the $5 million range almost. So it's just
Nice.
cost, and the province is fully expecting that there was going to be construction inflation.
Okay, anything else?
Nope, I'm done.
Thank you.
So unless you have a question of me.
Sandra, did you have anything?
Heather, do you have anything that you would like to share with us?
No.
Okay, so where are we going now?
In camera.
Brenda's gonna be here for the in-camera part?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so if I could have the resolution to go in camera, please?
Resolve council recess the regular meeting and go to in-camera to discuss legal and personnel issues, and further be it resolved that all matters discussed are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)D of the Municipal Act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councilor Sutherland, Councilor Boulanger seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
My two verbose for your questions.
And